Hi class, this is Randolph Scott here for the Ethics Project. Identify 3 cautionary tales of ethical mishaps with technology. Um, let's get started. I'll tell you this Screencast-O-Matic is pretty cool if you haven't tried it yet. It's very easy to use, I really like it. Um, Ethical mishap number 1 would have to do with automatic cars, self-driving vehicles. If you're not following this issue with self-driving vehicles, they're already out there, they're happening. Several companies have been working on this technology. Obviously, they're not available for consumer purchase yet. I'm pretty confident I'm right in saying that. But it's a technological breakthrough, but there have been some mishaps. So, for example, in March, um, an Uber vehicle that was self-driven actually unfortunately hit a woman in Arizona, and she died. And what happened was it was nighttime. The street lights weren't very bright. She was crossing the road on a normal standard city intersection in Tempe, and the car had a driver, somebody in the driver's seat, but it was under automatic control. The driver himself wasn't paying attention, and hit this lady. A lot of these uh, automatic driving vehicles require some element of driver participation. You're not supposed to just not pay attention. You got to do some things, and so ethically speaking, this technology, there's a responsibility that upon the driver to make sure that they are complying with the standard safety precautions for driving their particular vehicle. It's just like driving another vehicle. You can't nod off and fall asleep whenever you're driving your own vehicle. You can't look out the window and not pay attention whenever you're in control of a regular car. So whatever the standard procedures are for driving an automatic vehicle, those are going to have to be followed. But there's other ethical considerations with automatic cars as well. And for example, we've got this NTSB report from 2017 talking about Tesla automatic vehicles and a few crashes that have occurred with Tesla vehicles. And what this NTSB report found, National Transportation Safety Board, was that driver errors, as I mentioned, over-reliance on automation, lack of some safeguards led to a fatal Tesla crash in January of that year, sorry, in May. And, again, this is a tragedy, but there is some personal responsibility upon the driver here. Nonetheless, what this article also found or described is that the incidence of accidents with automatic vehicles are not high relative to a standard vehicle operation. Of course, there's not really a lot of, the sample size isn't really high right now, but you also have to consider the benefits you might get out of automated driving. It's going to save something in the line of several $billions per year, perhaps, in trucking alone. If we get automatic vehicles, automatic trucks hitting the highways here in a few years, it will reduce the level of accidents involving those trucks. They can drive for 24 hours at a time. Drivers don't need to sleep. Um, there's a lot of benefits there. And of course, ethically, this also calls into question what happens whenever you have a second industrial revolution. And I think there's about 3 million people in the United States who are truckers or work in industries that are dependent on the trucking industry. People at restaurants, motels, I don't know, things like that. But when 3 million people become unemployed overnight, that's going to be a pretty serious ethical situation that technology has rendered moot, ways of life for people. It's a pretty serious issue ethically. What do you do to compensate those people? Do you do anything? New job training programs, is that enough? Unemployment benefits, it's definitely some ethical considerations there. A third ethical mishap occurred, of course, the Cambridge Analytica scandal, when there was a Facebook harvested a lot of profile data from about 50 million users using a quiz or multiple quizzes that was then provided to Cambridge Analytica, maybe some other firms. Ethically, personal responsibility is always a question here. Users, there's sort of an understanding that when you're online, nothing is safe, even if you think it is. Secondly, you're choosing to use Facebook. And you know that there was some sort of agreement that you clicked on, just like we all do when it comes to Facebook or it comes to updating your iTunes, just like the South Park episode. We don't read these agreements. We just click the yes button, and that's an issue. But then there's also issues with Facebook itself and the tech industry itself. Do they need a code of conduct, a standard of ethics? That doesn't exist right now. It's not like the medical profession or something where you have the Hippocratic Oath. There's nothing like that for tech industry, and a lot of people are talking right now about how that might be necessary, and it's an interesting proposition. Should Facebook have to make it much more clear to people what they're signing up for example, really delineate what is going on with the data, or just outright refuse to offer it to other companies? I don't know. The hard thing about ethical questions is there's often not a clear-cut, black and white answer. In any case, those are our 3 ethical mishaps. I'm also supposed to give you some tips for avoiding these situations. If you're a company, try to do good, don't do evil, the Google motto. If you're an individual, make sure you follow the rules as best you can for your own safety and for other people. It might seem ambiguous, but I think it applies to all 3 of these situations regarding automobile automation, the safety threats of that, but also the promise that comes with it. And then thirdly, the sharing of personal data on the internet. This happens sometimes, so do take all precautions to avoid that. Thanks very much for the Ethics Project, for watching. I look forward to seeing all of yours as well. Take care.